Hi everyone, it's Mrs. Mann here, and today I'm reading you a non-fiction book called The Story of the Great Fire of London, and that's to tie in with the topic that you're learning at the moment. What was the Great Fire of London? A very long time ago, in 1666, a fire destroyed the old city of London. The fire was so big that it was called the Great Fire of London. The fire spread very quickly and burned down thousands of buildings. After the fire, the city had to be rebuilt. You can see above a drawing which was done by somebody who was actually alive during the fire. The Great Fire of London happened in the year 1666. At that time, King Charles II was the King of England. King Charles belonged to the Stuart family, so this time was known as the Stuart Age. The Great Fire of London started in a bakery in a street called Pudding Lane. It was early in the morning on Sunday, 2nd of September 1666. One of the workers in the bakery woke the baker up. The worker could smell smoke. A fire had started. Soon the flames were roaring fiercely. The baker and his family were trapped upstairs. The smoke was getting thicker. They had to escape quickly. They opened a window and climbed onto the roof. Then they jumped to safety onto the roof next door. The fire spreads. The Great Fire started as a small fire, but it spread very quickly. This is because there was a strong wind which blew the flames from one building to another. Soon the fire was out of control. There was another reason why the fire spread so quickly. At the time of the Great Fire, houses were built with wooden frames. They were called timber-framed houses. Sparks from the fire set the wooden buildings alight. The wood burned easily. Many houses had roofs made from thatch. The thatch also caught fire easily. This model shows us what streets and houses looked like at the time of the Great Fire. All of the buildings are squashed close together, so the fire is able to jump from one building to another really easily. Trying to escape. Soon hundreds of houses were burning. The smoke from the fire was thick and black. People were very frightened. They wanted to get to safety. Some people went down to the River Thames to catch a boat across to the other side. Other people tried to escape from the city in carts. There's another painting here, which was painted by someone who was alive during the Great Fire, and it shows you the ferocity of the fire and how difficult it was for people to get away from it. Some people sheltered in churches. They took their furniture and belongings with them. They hoped that the churches would not catch fire because the walls were made from stone, but many of the churches also burned down. Fighting the fire. Today, firefighters have special machinery to help them put out fires. They have fire engines to carry their ladders and hoses. At the time of the Great Fire, there was no fire brigade to call. People tried to put out the flames with buckets of water. They had to carry the water from the River Thames. It took a long time and did not stop the fire. In the picture above, you can see a drawing of the fire raging over the houses, and in the small picture, there's a photo of a bucket that would have been used in 1666. It's probably in a museum somewhere. In order to fight the fire, people also pulled down burning buildings with fire hooks. They hoped that this would stop the fire from spreading, but the fire was too strong and it carried on burning. The fire ends. On Tuesday the 4th of September, St. Pauls Cathedral burned down. It was the most famous building in London. Everyone thought that the cathedral was safe because it had thick stone walls, but it was covered in wooden scaffolding because it was being repaired. The scaffolding caught fire. The cathedral was quickly destroyed. There's another drawing here, which was also drawn by someone who was alive at the time of the fire, and you can see St. Paul's Cathedral covered in flames and smoke. The next day, the wind stopped and the fire began to go out. It had been burning for 4 days. The king ordered his soldiers to blow up the buildings closest to the flames. This also helped to stop the fire spreading. London in ruins. After the Great Fire, the city of London was in ruins. The fire burned more than 13,000 houses to the ground. Not many people died, but many people lost their homes. They had to shelter in huts or tents. People in other parts of England sent money to help them. London had to be rebuilt. A man called Christopher Wren planned a new city. This time he built homes using stone and brick so that they could not catch fire easily. He also built a new St. Paul's Cathedral. You can see it in London today. I've read before that it took him 35 years to complete the building. You can see a photograph of it above. How do we know about the Great Fire? Some famous writers lived in London at the time of the Great Fire. Their names were Samuel Pepys and John Evelyn. They were eyewitnesses to the fire. This means that they saw the fire actually happening. They wrote about the fire in their diaries. Their diaries tell us what happened. Above you can see a painting of Samuel Pepys. There are also lots of paintings and pictures which show what the Great Fire might have looked like. Above is a photograph of the monument, which stands near Pudding Lane where the fire started. It was designed by Christopher Wren, the same man who built St. Paul's Cathedral, and it was built over 300 years ago. It's to commemorate the Great Fire of London, so we never forget what happened in 1666. If you like, you can go to the monument and climb 311 steps to the top and look out over the City of London as it is now. I hope you've enjoyed the book on the Great Fire of London, and I hope you're enjoying the topic work you're doing, whether it's in school or at home. Sometimes I wonder if London would look different today if there hadn't have been a fire in 1666. Would it look the same, or would it have turned out differently? What do you think?